We always hear that love is enough, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to raising kids. But you ever think about what happens when that whole idea kind of crashes into the realities
Yeah. Yeah.
of what it takes to raise a child with complex needs,
Absolutely.
especially for single parents dealing with their own stuff, like chronic illness.
Right.
And then you add in all the systemic issues.
Yeah, that's a whole
That's what we're going to dig into today.
layer.
We've got this incredibly powerful story from a Black single mother
Powerful.
raising her nonverbal child. And she's navigating all of this stuff that we just talked about.
Yeah.
So her story really highlights that saying love is enough.
Yeah.
Well, it falls short.
It does. It really does.
And it forces us to think about
Right.
what else is really needed.
What else is going on there? What else is necessary?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into her story.
Okay.
And we're going to try to really understand why love alone isn't always enough.
Okay.
When it comes to raising a child with complex needs.
Yeah, I think one of the most striking things that jumps out at you when you read her account is this contrast between the love she has for her daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, it just pours out of every sentence. And the real obstacles she faces daily.
Yes.
I mean, she talks about the insurance company denying a speech-generating device for her daughter. Or, trying to get a qualified aide at school. And then she talks about these IEP meetings where she just feels like her voice isn't even heard.
Totally.
I mean, it really...
we can say, okay, those are difficulties, but what are the real world implications here?
Right.
This isn't about her not loving enough.
No, Mama.
Or not trying hard enough.
Right.
Her dedication is obvious.
Absolutely.
But as we can see, her love doesn't magically make the insurance company say yes or guarantee that her daughter is going to get the right support at school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, there was this study in pediatrics in 2022 that really detailed the interdisciplinary support that these kids really need.
Right.
And we're talking about occupational therapists, speech therapists, doctors, behavioral support teams.
And all of that.
Inclusive education. And the thing is, it's not just that these services are helpful.
Yeah.
It's that if they're not there,
right,
it doesn't matter how much you love a child.
Absolutely.
Their development can be really hindered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fundamental.
And it's not just the financial burden of all those things, right?
Of course.
It's the time it takes to learn all these systems.
Oh, my gosh.
And advocate for your child.
Constantly advocating.
And then on top of that, you're dealing with the emotional toll.
Right. The emotional toll is huge.
And imagine being a single parent and having a chronic illness and then trying to juggle all of that.
I mean, the burden is just immense.
It really is.
And that brings us to, something we hear all the time, especially around mothers.
Yeah.
This idea that a mother's love will sustain her.
Oh, yeah.
But, she's functioning on very little sleep.
Right.
She's constantly going to these appointments, always fighting for her daughter's needs. I mean, that requires way more than love.
It does.
You need tangible support.
Right.
Love is not some magical infinite wellspring. I mean, you
gotta refill it.
You need support to refill it.
Yeah.
We'll get burned out.
Absolutely. And there are studies that show this, right?
Exactly.
Parents of kids with special needs.
Yeah.
They have higher rates of depression and chronic stress.
Exactly.
And in her story, she's really highlighting the added burden on Black mothers because of systemic racism and socioeconomic disparities.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not just about the love.
Right.
You can have all the love in the world.
You can't love your way out of that.
But that pressure is still there.
Right.
And
then there's, the CDC data showing that Black children are often diagnosed with autism later or not at all.
Later than white children?
Compared to white children, right. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, this isn't about parents not loving their kids enough or not paying attention.
Right.
This is about potential biases in the medical system.
Absolutely.
And this disparity really highlights how love can't overcome these deep-seated systemic issues. I mean, it's just...
And that delay in diagnosis has a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely.
Early intervention is so important.
So important.
And if a child doesn't get a diagnosis early enough, they miss out on crucial therapies and support.
It changes their whole trajectory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a parent can be incredibly loving and dedicated and still not be able to get their child the resources they need.
Exactly, because the system's failing them.
Because of these systemic delays.
The system's failing them.
Yeah. And what she talks about is this feeling of being powerless.
Yes.
Even though she has so much love for her daughter.
I mean, you can just feel it.
But the tools and resources, they're just not there.
They're just out of reach.
And she gives this example of her nonverbal daughter.
Right.
Who communicates in her own way.
Right.
But she still needs a speech-generating device to really express herself and engage with the world.
To really be heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just highlights how even the deepest love can't break down those systemic barriers.
It's not enough.
To getting essential resources.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, she talks about the difference between families with money and families without. Like, families with the means they can access specialized care. They can send their kids to private schools.
Right.
But lower income families, they're often left relying on prayer GoFundMe and waiting lists.
Ugh.
It's a totally different reality.
And the love's there in both situations.
Exactly. The love's the same.
But the resources
are
not. It's really, it makes you think differently about it.
Yeah. It really shifts your perspective.
Love is like the engine.
It's the fuel.
It's what motivates her to keep going.
Yeah.
But you need more than just that emotional strength.
Like, absolutely.
You need actual support.
Tangible support.
And systemic change.
You can't do it alone.
Right.
And she's very clear about what her daughter needs.
Yeah.
She needs services. She needs inclusive spaces. She needs a society that actually values her.
Right.
And parents like her need real help.
Yeah.
Not just hashtags.
Not just thoughts and prayers.
Right. Not just thoughts and prayers.
Okay.
They need action.
So what we've really learned today is that love is essential.
It is.
It's the foundation for raising children.
Yeah.
Especially children with complex needs.
Absolutely.
But it exists in this bigger context.
Like part of a system.
You need access to resources.
A bigger system, yeah.
You need a supportive system.
Right.
You need basic fairness.
It can't stand alone.
And those things might be even more important than the love itself.
I think so.
Love is what drives you to get those things.
Yeah.
But it's those things.
It's the things that actually allow that child to thrive.
It determine whether a child can thrive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this brings us to a really important question.
Okay.
For everyone listening. We've talked about all these needs. What can we do to go beyond just acknowledging the importance of love?
Right.
How can we actually get involved in creating and supporting these resources for families, raising kids with complex needs?
Yeah.
How do we make sure their love is met with the help they need?
That's the real question, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Bye.